TV, Vietnamese American Arizona Television.
Hello and welcome to VAA TV Real Estate Talk Show with Scott Barlow and Linh. Investing can be tricky, especially for beginners. However, with the right knowledge and understanding, you can achieve success in your investment. Our talk show is designed to bring out great topics for investors like you. We hope you enjoy the show and welcome to submit any feedback during and after the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to VAA TV Real Estate Show. And we have Mr. Scott Barlow from SF Fuller Real Estate Investment. Like usual, will come and share with us all the information and news about real estate world. Welcome back, Scott.
Hi, how are you?
Good. We're missing you we missed you last week, right?
Last week and I believe the week before.
Oh, the week before, yeah. Two weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row.
Wow. You have a great time?
I've been traveling.
Oh, okay. Anything to share?
No, other than there's snow. There was snow in the upper Midwest.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah.
I appreciate being in Phoenix because I don't like snow.
Great. The weather is getting better.
Yes.
I mean, warmer.
It was today. I think it was around 82 degrees out.
Oh, wow.
So
that's
very
wonderful.
nice. That feels good.
Right. So what do we have today for our audience?
Well, a few weeks ago, we talked about the National Association of Realtors had lost a court case.
Yes, that's right.
And one of the big aspects of that court case was commissions. And just to refresh everybody's recollection, the National Association of Realtors, as well as realtors in Missouri, were sued in federal court. The contention was that the sellers, at the time that they did their listing, did not really have a choice on commission, as far as they didn't realize that they were paying for the buyer's broker commission.
Oh, okay.
They understood they were paying for theirs, but didn't understand they were paying for the buyer's broker commission. So there's a bit of a concern about that. And in addition to it, there's kind of a sense out there in the general public that that commissions are set by either by the National Association of Realtors or by individual states that they're set. And in that case, they are not set. Commissions are like everything else in real estate. They're subject to being negotiated. So out of that case, there were a number of aspects that came out. It looked like there were the total amount that they were sued for was $1.6 billion, which is a pretty hefty settlement. And
they sued to the National Association
of Realtors, as well as realtors in Missouri.
I see.
And then shortly after that case was, the results of that case came out, the Arizona Association of Realtors was also sued. And it goes back to how the MLSs work and those types of things. So about a week and a half ago, the National Association of Realtors worked out a settlement with the plaintiffs from the case, and the points of that are still they're still being finalized. But I think it's very insightful to talk with folks about it tonight, because it's going to change how sellers operate as well as how buyers operate. And there's a lot of people saying, well, the price of real estate is going to go down because commissions are going to be less. I'm not entirely sure about that. And we'll get into that a little bit more. I think for some folks, I think that the old law of unintended consequences may come to play. And I wouldn't be surprised if there aren't further changes after these changes are implemented, because I think that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who are the buy up mortgages, they're going to look at it and they're going to go that those buyers may not be getting the representation that they need. So, and I'll talk about that in a little more depth. The big thing I want to do is just kind of dispel some rumors, because already today I read one of these. I got an article off the internet, and this one is, what does the death of the 6% commission mean? Well, start off, there never was a 6% commission. everybody could charge different amounts. It's up to the individual realtor at the time of the listing how much they wanted to ask for. And it was up to the buyer and the principals in the sale how much commission they wanted to pay. So that was always negotiable. So that's one of those fallacies. I look at that as, and it's what I would call clickbait. In other words, somebody created that to snatch a headline and to get their website, you know, a little higher up on the search optimization engine.
Yes.
But I think the thing I'm going to do tonight, because I've actually had meetings at my office. My broker has given us some direction. And so there's obvious change that's going to happen. But some of the changes are starting already. And the majority of them will not occur until July 15th.
Oh, July 15th.
So in the middle of the summer. The interesting thing is, as these rules changes are getting formulated, one of the big ones is that we haven't heard anybody from the Arizona Department of Real Estate come out and make any pronouncements on it. So I'm going to go through a few of these things, and I'm sure you'll have questions, and we can talk about how they're going to affect people. But you know, the first thing I want to do is point out, you know, that original settlement was for 1.6, and it potentially, if there was a violation of some of the different antitrust laws, it could have gone as high as $5.1 million or $1 billion. Billion with a B.
Oh, wow.
Think about big dollars with a B.
Yes.
The National Association of Realtors, they worked out a settlement, and the actual cash payment that they're going to make is about a quarter of that original amount of 1.6 billion. So they're looking at paying out roughly $418 million, and that'll be spread out over several years.
Whoa.
It's still a substantial amount, but nevertheless, it's significantly less than what was originally anticipated. All the key things to come away with here is all of the liability has been swept away from individual realtors, from their brokerages, from the MLSs, as well as from the state and various subgroups or subportions of the National Association of Realtors. So everybody's kind of off the hook, with a few exceptions. Some of the major brokerages that did over $2 billion in sales in 2022 individually, they may still have some liability. The plaintiffs in this case did not want to let them off. I believe that the biggest one out there is the home services from Berkshire Hathaway. So that it may be a while before that one's settled. They'll probably settle it separately. I can't imagine that it would be something extremely different, but nevertheless, it's a substantial change. Now, how does that affect us?
Yes.
Well, once again, for me as an individual, I am a member of the National Association of Realtors. And I want to clarify a couple of points here. First one is, anybody here in the state of Arizona can go and take their test and get a license to be a licensed salesperson. So that does not make them a realtor. Being a member of the National Association of Realtors makes them a realtor. So you have to go through.
You have to join a member.
You have to join as a member of the National Association of Realtors. And the reason that it's important for the National Association of Realtors, obviously, they're a big both marketing as well as a group that does a lot of things for laws, for promoting individual home ownership, all of those different types of things, promoting realtors. They're a big lobbying organization. So it's their footprint is pretty large. But when you look at who are the people here in Arizona who are not members of the National Association of Realtors or the Arizona Association of Realtors or some of the different boards, local boards that are part of that group, what you have is you'll have commercial brokers who do not have to be part of the National Association of Realtors. There's a fairly good number of them that are because they see the advantages of it, but nevertheless, you don't have to be a realtor. So that was not affecting some of those companies.
Okay.
The big thing is that it is going to cause some changes. And we're going to probably see as the biggest changes, and this is already something that my broker has come out and said, is that if you're a home buyer and you want to go see a property and you call a realtor up, unless that home buyer wants to sign or is willing to sign a buyer broker agreement, we will not show them the house.
Oh, okay.
And just to give you an idea,
what does that mean? The buyer broker agreement.
Well,
that's allow.
I actually pulled a copy. This is a form that we already have.
Oh, okay, exclusive. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Employment.
So it's buyer broker exclusive employment agreement. So what it does is it names who the buyer is, who the agent is,
right,
who the firm is,
right,
but then it talks about a retainer fee.
Right. So which, like, if they go with this, whoever signed on this page, then that's the only broker they're gonna deal with. Or if they deal with somebody else, then that person will have to split or they are not allowed to.
You know what? Somebody potentially could be on the hook for paying two brokers.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So they're going to have to be very careful about it. But the compensation for the broker will already be listed on this. And so at the time of a sale, how that buyer is going to pay that commission becomes part of his overall financing. He needs to understand that. And one place where you could get into trouble, I'm going to talk about this a little bit early, but is imagine if you've got a first-time home buyer.
Yes.
And that first-time home buyer, usually they're just getting by the skin of their teeth. In other words, they have a minimal amount to put down. They don't know a whole lot about buying homes. So they need representation. They need the expertise of an agent. And they need to pay for an agent.
Right.
But they may not have the funds to be able to pay for an agent. So they buy a house and it may be at the top of what they can afford. But then the agents, what they owe the agent is on top of that.
Oh.
So they may qualify for the loan and everything, but how do they pay the agent?
Right.
And that becomes a big question. So that may be one of those things. On the seller side of things, of course, the seller, where everybody got into trouble, not so much in our state because our forms are different, but what happened in a lot of states is you have a listing agent who sits down at your table and you say, okay, we want to sell our house.
Right.
And he says, well, I want a 5, 6, 7% commission. And what may or may not be disclosed in there is that commission is co-brokered. In other words, if once he puts it on the MLS, that MLS system tells the buyer's brokers that are out there, they're all free agents looking for homes for their clients.
Right.
It tells them how much the seller is willing to give them to bring a buyer to them.
Right.
Now, depending on how some of those states, how their forms were written, perhaps that wasn't properly disclosed. I know on our state form, we had some changes here just a few years ago where it said, and I'm just going to kind of quote it from memory, but it said that if I get, say, a 5% commission, that I might take 2 or 3%, and that the buyer's
agent.
broker, that we would offer him 2%.
Right.
So that was already disclosed in that listing agreement. The big thing is that was also put onto the MLS. So that the general public could look at it like, let's say you've got a house at 123 East Main Street, and it's going for sale for $100,000, and you see that the commission on it is 2.5%. Everybody saw that.
Right.
So what has happened now is we're being directed that as of July 15th, there will no longer be any amount listed on the MLS for as far as commission. And the buyer, the seller, at the time of the listing, as a listing agent, we need to make sure that they understand that there will not be any listing publicly as far as a co-broke. I know some, and when I say co-broke, what I mean is that there is a buyer's commission available.
Commission available.
Now, traditionally, we've sold homes with both a buyer and a seller's commission.
Right.
It already worked out.
Mm-hmm.
So that portion is going to go away. And the seller may be able to sit there and go, okay, I'll still pay my agent 3%, but I'm not going to list anything for what the buyer's broker is going to do. So that buyer's broker is either going to have something coming from
like
this contract, or what may very well happen in the case of some of these buyers, they may come in, and this is still being worked out. They may come in and go, okay, for your house there on 123 East Main for $100,000, you've got it listed. I will offer you $95,000, but I need you to cover my contractual obligations to my agent. So in other words, they were going to pay their agent 2%. So you as the home seller, you're sitting there going, okay, so now I'm going to pay the buyer's agent, but we've negotiated this. So it sounds like it's going to be a little more unwieldy. I'm not certain.
So there's an extra step right there. It's not automatically happened before. So
that's correct.
Like the first time is like if the buyer want to look for any house, then the agent or whoever representing would make sure to get this signed so that they can get the contract together, like how much money and all
exactly
that. There,
right.
And then after that, after the negotiation on the contract, then of course the seller will willing to cover that or not. Then that's
maybe not.
Maybe not. So that's an extra money that the buyer will have to pay beside the offer of the
exactly right
purchase contract.
So what it does is that extra step in there, it makes some of those contracts a little more iffy, where there's an extra step to them, where the seller may decide, no, I'm not going to pay that extra amount, and so you've kind of got a little bit of both going here, because if the seller, who is traditionally has paid for it,
right,
he's paying for another agent to bring in a buyer. What if he's not willing to pay anybody? How many agents are going to be?
Yeah.
How many buyers are if they know that if they need that commission to be paid for by the seller, and they know that the seller won't pay for it, how many of those buyers are going to really be interested in looking at those homes?
So you mean like the seller, when they sign a contract with the listing agent, then they don't do 6% anymore. They just do percentage that they will pay you. That's it. Pay the broker, the listing broker, right?
Exactly.
And then they don't care about the buying, because that's the buying part. So that's another situation where the buyer will not like less money, but maybe pay more money.
May have to come out of their pocket with more money. And I've already seen on the MLS some of the commissions have gone to 0 or 0.5%. Something very low. So once again, if you're the buyer and the buyer's agent, you're trying to do your best for your client.
Yes.
But you're not required to work for free. But that's why having this buyer broker agency agreement in hand, it helps protect the agent. But I have real questions about how it's going to affect the first time home buyer who doesn't have a lot of extra cash where they can take care of that.
Yeah, that's going to be an issue. I mean, like in the way that maybe like the more difficult for the real estate agent job as well, when they seek the buyer that pay for the cost.
Well, that's another thing. I don't think first off, listing agents are not going to go away.
Yeah,
you're always going to need somebody with the expertise to advertise and market the property, to handle the paperwork and everything. But for the buyer, especially if they don't have the wherewithal, they don't know what all the steps. We've talked here a number of times in the past weeks about some of the different things you need to do for due diligence, and in many cases, those are things that the that the buyer's agent is helping his client along with.
Right.
And as far as me being a selling agent, it's not my responsibility.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you just do one side. Yeah.
I just do one side. Exactly right.
Wow. It's going to be interesting.
So that's probably one of the biggest portions. And, you know, I know some of the when we were having this discussion in my office, I know some of the folks that are primarily residential realtors, they were up in arms because they didn't understand how that could work. On the commercial side of things, we already have things in place because in many cases, you know, if you look at where we do our listings, very few of the commercial listings are on the MLS. Mm-hmm. They're on things like LoopNet, CoStar, Crexi, some of the big commercial sites who function much like an MLS system, but there are certain things that they don't do. Commission is generally not listed on those. Mm-hmm. So if, say I'm representing you to purchase a commercial property, and one of the first things that I do is I call the other brokerage and I ask them, is there a co-broke? Mm-hmm. In other words, will their seller pay for the commission? Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things that's agreed to early on. Mm-hmm. I think we may end up with situations like that, but it's going to have to be there's going to be some rules that come down. I know in the state of Arizona, the real estate commissioner in the past has said she does not want commissions negotiated in a purchase contract. Mm. So what we've done on the commercial side of things is we usually do it in a letter of intent. Mm. A letter of intent is nothing more than it's basically a statement of, hey, we're willing to buy it for this amount, and here's what we need. We need commission, we need inspection periods, all that type of stuff is agreed to prior to writing the contract. Oh, okay. Now, on the flip side of things, if you don't have someone who can write the contract for the buyer, who's going to write the contract?
Yeah, the listing agent. Oh no,
the listing agent
is not going to take care. Yeah, listing agent just do the listing.
He's not going to take on that liability.
Right.
So you may end up with, and it could be even a further expense when they go to an attorney to have the attorney write
the contract.
Yes.
Oh. And so I didn't. So what if the buyer agreed to let the listing agent write a contract and be like the person represent both? They can. I would say it used to be before like that.
Yes, it was called dual agency.
Dual agency, yeah.
But I think what you're going to do is you're probably going to end up in a situation at best where you have an unrepresented buyer, and maybe the listing agent, because he's got access to the forms and everything, maybe he does go ahead and write up the contract, but he's going to only get the information from the buyer.
Not going to act for the buyer.
Exactly right. Yeah. And so he's not going to volunteer things.
The information and all that. I see.
It's going to be up to the buyer to be informed enough to be able to do that. Now, there are things like the buyer advisory that's available through the Arizona Association of Realtors, as well as there is a requirement as a realtor that I treat the other party fairly. So, maybe that's something that we do, is that we'll have to provide a...
So let me ask you here, that form, this form is like between the buyer and the buyer agent. But what does it do for the transaction? Are the buyer agent going to provide that form out to everybody, or that just between them two?
Well, it's between the two of them, but the buyer can state to the seller, hey, I need assistance to pay my broker.
The broker, yeah.
So that becomes important. That's in the instance where the seller says, no, I don't want to do anything
pay for that. Yeah.
On the other hand, you may end up with a fair number of sellers who go, you know what, I want to get my house sold.
Yeah, and then you're willing to give some cost.
Yeah, fee. So that when, like, let's say that I'm representing you, and we're selling your house again,
right?
And you go, you know what, Scott, we'll go 5%, 2.5% to each broker. So I can't put it out there on the MLS. we're looking at other ways where it can be advertised, where you're willing to put it out. But so far, we don't have anything in writing, no concrete plans on how that's going to work. But at some point, the two brokers will have to talk.
Because I was thinking this way. I mean, if it's in a seller sense, like, okay, if I pay the real estate commission to whoever, then that person will work for me, will work for whatever benefit me.
Correct.
So in the case that if he say, okay, I'll pay for that, but then isn't it the buyer agent will do the good job for the buyer when receive the money from the seller?
Exactly right. And that goes back to the crux of things where when in the original lawsuit that the buyers were going, sellers were going, I'm paying for the buyer's agent, and the buyer's agent's working against me. He's representing the buyer. Yeah. So and I'm paying for it. Yeah. So, you can understand how they were a little bit sore about that whole thing.
Right. Yeah.
But in one form or another, I know that the consumer protection laws are going to come in, and they will figure out a way to make sure that those buyers, especially those new buyers, have some type of adequate representation.
There you go. Yeah, because maybe the buyer agent also got confused, like in the way I don't pay you, you get paid by the seller. Maybe you will also benefit the seller, and you didn't give me the correct information. Oh no, I didn't know.
You never know what's going through some people's minds, but nevertheless, you should be representing your client to the best of your abilities, no matter how.
So that's why I'm saying, like, this form is like for them both to understand each other, for the relationship, for the
exactly right,
for all that. But in order to like get paid, they can explain to the buyer that they will get help to get that paid, but they still representing them, right? To
Correct.
Do the job, the due diligence or whatever that is.
I'll give you an example here. It has both a retainer fee as well as compensation.
Right.
So let's
retainer fee.
Let's suppose that we come down here to compensation, and the buyer's broker says to the buyer, I want 3%.
Okay.
And so we find a house, and we present an offer.
Right.
And the seller says, I'll give you 2%.
Oh, okay.
So where does the other 1% come from?
1% buyer will pay for?
The buyer's still on the hook for 1%.
Oh, okay.
And now I might add something else, because this is where it can get a little bit sticky. Let's suppose that you have one of these with your agent, and you drive by a new home builder's,
right,
and you get registered, and you buy a house there.
Oh, okay.
The way that the builders are set up, they do not allow a buyer's broker to come in except on day one, the very first visit. So if I'm the broker, you're my client, you've taken a look at a brand new spec home. And you go, Scott, this is what I want. I want to get this spec home. First off, I can't represent you, but you still owe me commission. So it's going to be a little bit tricky, and buyer brokers are going to have to really work with their clients to keep them informed. But it's going to be kind of a sticky situation when you get into those instances.
Yeah, so now they have to understand that buyer broker exclusive, the employment agreement, that is something, just whatever instead of put percentage, you have to like kind of try to word and where the seller agreed to pay for, so that you don't have to pay that extra if
exactly
you can negotiate about the fee.
Exactly right.
Or that's why it's going to be affect their job, the real estate job.
I think that you're going to have some brokers who just used to work with buyers all the time. I think that their portion of the job is going to be a little bit more challenging. Because they're going to have to. Yeah, I know. At least in our office, our broker is going to require this if you're working with someone. On the flip side of things,
this apply for everything, including commercial or of the transaction. all at different transactions.
Because my broker is a member of National Association of Realtors. He's going to insist on this type of thing when you're working with a buyer. You know, the curious thing that's going to come out of this is what's going to happen with open houses.
Yeah.
Because if I'm the listing agent,
right,
and I've got a property and I'm showing it,
right,
how do I have somebody sign that? Especially if they're coming with their own.
Right, if they come their own, that's okay. Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that are kind of up in the air, and we're not entirely sure how everything's going to work out.
Because, yeah, that's true. Because like, depend on some situation where if the dual agency, they can get both commission, right? But
I think a lot of dual agency is going to go away.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's going to affect the real estate world about that. Yeah, or they got to have a two-person partner working together, one acting as a listing and one acting as a buyer. Well,
that becomes problematic for the broker because even if he's got two different agents, it's one brokerage. So they don't count that way. That's dual agency there.
Oh, that they don't count as that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because the a real estate agent working under the real estate broker, but they really actually use the license of the broker.
Exactly.
Wow.
And I've had commercial transactions where I've had clients who did not want dual agency. So and I actually found the buyer, and I had to refer it to a different broker.
To another broker. Wow. So when you refer that, then are they gonna share a commission with you?
Usually they pay a referral fee.
Referral fee for that, right? Yeah. Wow. I was thinking like that's I know it's good or bad, but it's gonna be like strong effective in real estate job market, like for the real estate or agent and all, to earn money.
Here's what I would say is that we've always had a certain percentage of realtors who were part-time realtors.
Yes.
Maybe they sold 2 or 3 houses a year maximum. I think that for some of those people, they may look at all these new rules and everything and go, that's too much. It's not worth it.
Less people work in the job. Yeah.
But as it is, the majority of...
Or just go and get the real estate license yourself and represent it yourself.
Well, and that's what some people do as well. They get it and they represent themselves.
Yeah. Wow. I would just hope but then this is already finalized, you say, like by July they apply everywhere.
Well, by July that they're going to be doing it. Oh. They're going to be making everything in. Nothing is finalized.
Yeah.
We're still going through speculation on exactly how it's going to look. Okay. But we do know that the portion of where the commissions are put on the MLS, that will definitely be coming off on July 15th. And as I said, I'm already seeing on the MLS, there's still some people that have traditional amounts of compensation.
But who set the percentage commission? Is it like 5, 6, 4, 3, 4, whatever? Who set that? Is just any rule or anything like?
No, there's no rule to it. In fact, this idea of a 6% commission is laughable because there is nothing in writing anywhere. Okay. National Association of Realtors doesn't do it. It kind of becomes
MLS, nothing, no showing.
It's kind of been common practice in some areas,
right?
But the amount of commission or the rate of commission has changed over the years. I know for when I first started, it wasn't unusual to see 10% commission for land, and now land is typically more where you're going to look at homes, and commercial properties are much similar. They've all kind of gravitated into in between 2 and 5% for the listing agent. If there's any compensation that goes to the buyer's agent, it's usually between 2 and 3%. So if you take that 2 or 3% and you add it to the 2 or 3%, that's generally why you get that 6%.
Wow.
or someplace around there. I've seen it 7. I've personally have done
7 too?
I've done 8% when I knew it was going to be a particularly problematic sale, and there was going to be more work to it. And my clients were agreeable to that because they knew of the extra
they're
work.
different than like a business sale per commission than the real estate sale commission, right? Just like a business, like gas station, like market or anything.
It really depends because when you're talking about a gas station, for example, is that gas station getting sold with the
real estate or not? Right?
Well, is the I guess what I'm trying to say is the name of the station being sold? In other words, let's suppose that it's a standalone gas station, maybe Sinclair. Or something like that.
Right.
And somebody just happens to have a Sinclair franchise.
Okay.
So they're selling their gas station.
Okay.
They may not have this. They may not be selling the franchise.
Okay. I got you.
So, when you look at a gas station like Exxon,
yes,
the person has a franchise. So if they're selling the property, they may, and in many cases, likely be selling.
That's what I'm saying, like the business. Because when they sell the business, they have to sell everything about that business to the new owner.
Exactly.
And they sell, if they don't own the property, if they own property, then they sell together.
Well,
yeah.
Take Circle K. Okay. Yeah. Circle K, they have a standard policy. Let's suppose they sell one of their gas stations and convenience stores. Somebody comes in and buys it.
Yeah.
As part of that sales stipulation, you can never put another gas station in that location because they're taking the name and everything and they're moving it. Now, if it was somebody that had the franchise, they'd already paid the franchise fee and they were selling it, then the name of the business would stay there.
Yeah.
And then that would be a negotiated part of the sale as well.
Oh, okay. So that's a different part of a commission.
It could be.
Okay.
It could be part of the entirety, but it could be just a standalone.
Standalone business, right?
So each of those situations is unique on its own face, and the information that is needed to be collected as part of the sale agreement is much more complicated than just selling.
But there's a cap or anything like allow or not allow a certain percentage of the fee that be charged or not?
No.
Okay.
Nothing that I know of.
So it's okay. They negotiate whatever they want.
Exactly.
As long as the both party agree to the
as long as the seller and the seller's agent agree to what compensation the seller's agent should have. One of the things that's a big portion of this is the Sherman Antitrust Act. It's from early in the 1900s, but it does not allow industries to fix prices. So that's why this idea of a fixed 6% commission rate is laughable. It's not. It's illegal. Now,
yeah, that's why
we don't. It's not like all the brokerages get together and go, okay, we're all going to do 6%. They can't do that. It's against the law. But generally speaking, as well as I do, people tend to be competitive. So if I'm willing to do a listing agreement and to go through all of my representations and provide all the services for 3%, and the guy down the street's done it for 4%, and my client goes, no, I don't want to pay the 4%. Scott, you can do it for the 3%. Gradually over time, they kind of coalesce around a certain percentage. But there is fluctuation and there is room. There's nothing that says that the seller and the seller's agent can't negotiate between the two of them to come up with a price. And there's other ways of doing it. I've had clients who've said, you know what, Scott, sell this property for me. I need to have a 25% profit on it. And so we know what he bought it for. Say he's got this $100,000 property.
Right.
He bought it for $67,000. So if I can sell it for over that 25%, any additional profit above that 25%, with this particular client, he has said it goes to you because you've done that good of a job. So if I sell it for for 26%, and we had agreed I'd do it for 3%, that 1% above the 25%, then I get that. So there's all kinds of ways where you can negotiate how your commissions are set up. But it has to be agreed to by the buyer. I mean, excuse me, by the seller and the seller's agent.
Seller agent.
Yes.
I see. Wow, that's interesting.
So
about money settle.
And a couple of other things I just wanted to touch on is that, like I said, that's going to be removed from the MLS and probably around July. The percentage around July 15th. One of the things that they're speculating, and they're going to need permission probably from the state, as I said before, the real estate commissioner in the past has not wanted to see, you know, it's like if I'm presenting you with a offer on your home, as part of the offer on your home, they didn't want to see, hey, I need to get paid 3%. They did not want that on there. And frankly, the lenders don't want to see it because how do the lenders go ahead and lend on real estate commissions? So it needs to be part of the overall package. It can't be in the contract because the lenders get a copy of the contract.
Right.
So one of the things they're talking about is a standalone document, perhaps as an addendum that says that that the seller agrees to provide the buyer with a credit to pay their
costs.
To pay their broker.
Because the settlement, the estimated settlement and the final HUD or something, that will need to be shown.
That always has to be shown.
That's very shown.
Yeah,
right?
that's and that see that
how much percent, how much money that paid to the broker, right?
Exactly
for
right.
the ending of the transaction.
And so that's the settlement sheet that occurs at close of escrow. And what it'll do is it'll tell how much the taxes were, how much the property was, what the HOA fees were, any of those fees,
all the adjustment,
all those adjustments, and including commissions.
Oh, okay, I see.
So all that has to be disclosed, but it's how we get to that point where the buyer's broker is being compensated. That's going to be the next tricky part to this whole thing.
Yeah, for that.
and like I said, I think that's still the part that is out there because if you don't have, if the buyer's broker is not being compensated, what's their motivation to do that job?
Exactly, because like. If they want to do the job, they want to bring the buyer, then it makes sense. I mean, all these time it makes sense that they receive the commission from the seller.
Exactly,
you know,
right.
for that. But like now it's a different way of thinking when they have a clause suit about like, okay, what if you take the money from the seller, then the benefit of the transaction will go to the seller, not to the buyer.
Right.
So that's why it brings up. But from the buyer point of view, all these time we was thinking, it makes sense to us because the broker of the seller pay the commission so that they want to sell the property. But you actually want the transaction, want the business, then we there. We help us to complete that in the right things, and later on maybe you will list our home. So
exactly
there's something
right.
like thinking like that.
So though I expect to see changes on that all throughout the remainder of until July. A couple of things that I just wanted to put out, and we've kind of talked about it, but the very first rule here is that, and I'm going to kind of go through these. Implications for home buyers. The settlement would preserve the choices of consumers have regarding the real estate services and compensation. So once again, as a seller, you can go ahead and you could use me. I'm what's considered a full service agent.
Okay.
There are other brokerages out there who would put it on the MLS for you for say $1,000.
Okay.
They don't take any phone calls. You field all the phone calls.
Right.
It's kind of a do-it-yourself.
Right.
So you'll get all the way from limited services to full service.
To full services.
Yes. After it goes into effect, listing brokers and sellers could continue to offer compensation for buyer broker services, but such offers could not be communicated via the MLS. And so this is what I was saying.
Internal, yeah.
If say you're a buyer's broker,
yeah,
and you go, hey Scott, that house that you've got at 123 East Main,
yeah,
my client's interested in buying it.
Yeah.
Will you pay a co-broke? And I go, you know what? You're in luck, because yes, we will pay a co-broke of 2.5%.
Okay. So that's good. That's
so that you're all set.
Yeah. So that's still.
There's even
they gotta find that way. I mean,
yes.
Or everybody gets stuck.
They're even talking about. I mean, every time that you have change,
yes,
the real estate business, it's an evolving business. It's constantly evolving because there's always changes, and these changes, there'll be some hiccups here initially, but we may get to some other things. Like, in the last few years, we've seen places like Zillow and Redfin and Trulia. Yeah. They've come up. And then at the same time, we've seen what we call iBuyers. Oh, okay. Open Door, OfferPad. Zillow was for a while. So there's innovative approaches that pop up. Right. One of the things that some of the brokerages have talked about is perhaps they'll have a standalone website so that sellers can put on there, hey, I'm selling my house and I'm offering 2% on it. So, it's not tied to the brokerages or the MLS. Yes. And it doesn't violate the terms of the agreement. But they're looking at some of those as possibilities. Another item here for the sellers and their brokers. The settlement expressly provides that the sellers may communicate seller concessions, such as buyer closing costs, via the MLS, provided that such concessions are not conditioned on the use or payment to a buyer broker. Oh. So what you could say on there is that, you're allowing, and generally speaking, if somebody's got a lower priced home, they have an expectation that they're going to have FHA buyers. Yes. FHA buyers, in many cases, they need seller concessions in order to be able to make everything work. So you can make that comment. Yeah. The new rule about the written agreements, the National Association of Realtors has long encouraged its members to use written agreements because they help consumers understand exactly what services and value will be provided. This type of a form, this buyer-broker agreement, this has been around for a long time. This is a form that National Association of Realtors has a certification. It's called the Accredited Buyers Representative. And it's about a 40-hour class, but this form is the crux of that type of certification. Wow. And what it does is, like we've talked about it helps the buyer and the buyer's broker understand what their relationship is. All right. Okay. It solidifies it. The settlement provides that the MLS participants working with buyers must enter into written agreements with those buyers. So once again, this is coming down from that court case that if I'm going to show a house to you, you're going to have to be signed up with me and we'll have to have a buyer-broker agreement. Right. Yes. That change will go into effect in mid-July of this year. Implications for members and home buyers and sellers. After the new rule goes into effect, MLS participants acting for buyers would be required to enter into this form, once again, with their buyers before touring a home. These agreements can help the consumer understand exactly what the services are. So, when ultimately, why did the National Association of Realtors decide to settle? $1.6 billion, or the possibility if they went to additional, and the idea that they violated the antitrust, that could have been triple that amount. Wow. So, I mean, it would have bankrupted the National Association of Realtors. So that was one reason why they went ahead and did that. Yes. So they got some money. Look at the attorney. Hallelujah. So what did they get out of it? Nothing in the settlement changes how National Association of Realtors treats their clients. Our code of ethics, all those types of things stay the same. Right. One of the critical advantages is that they reduce their overall liability from $1.6 billion down to $418 million, and it's going to be paid out over 4 years. And though it's a substantial amount of money, I suspect we're going to see dues go up. But
whoever joined in.
but
Yeah.
but you know,
The renewal fee.
it did need to get settled.
Yeah.
And you know, they advertise, they do a lot of great advocacy, they do a lot of things for first-time home buyers, you know, for affordable housing, those types of services. And you know, as far as realtors themselves are concerned, they do a good job on helping out and providing consumer protection to new buyers. And especially if you think about it, when somebody's buying a home, that's probably the largest purchase they'll ever make in their lifetime.
Exactly. Yeah, especially first-time home buyer,
and
they want to make the right one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you want to make good decisions, and you need a good advisor to walk you
the person
through
that work with you.
Exactly right.
Those. Yes.
So what's next? Like I said, in mid-July, that's when we're going to start seeing the changes. All of these things that they're working on right now are still subject to the court approving them.
Oh, I see. So actually, they are agreed yet? I mean, like for both sides?
They came to a general agreement. You know, just kind of imagine what they did is they came to an agreement that would fit on this size piece of paper, but ultimately, when they work everything out, it's going to be you know, multiple pages.
Exactly.
But so we've got a framework on in a direction that we're going to go. But I think that you're going to see some of the states do things differently. You know, for example, here in Arizona, they changed our constitution, and because it used to be that only attorneys could write contracts. So they changed our constitution years ago, and they allowed realtors, real estate professionals, to have the limited ability to write real estate contracts.
But those forms that they provided, you know, for like a purchase sale contract, things like that. So those already has some of the things to cover.
Yes.
Both,
yes.
Right?
There's going to be some modifications. I suspect most forms will pretty much stay the same.
Okay.
But there'll be some modifications to it to handle the commissions.
Right.
One thing I might add, you know, it's kind of funny because my broker's been in the business for over 40 years. People were buying real estate on one-page contracts.
Oh.
And now the contracts are 11 and 12 pages long with addendums, and it goes on and on. So, you know, you think about it this way. Every time that somebody made a mistake and the lawyers got involved, there was another form, and they added more things to it. So you can, and the Arizona Association of Realtors, they keep a lawyer on staff constantly.
Because the same as the loan. Let's say the loan document. What like all the importance I know is trust note and trust deed, but like there's like the tons of all the document because every time when things happen, they add more AKA or signing approval, residential agreement or something like that. There's a lot of things that they add on.
Absolutely. So
wow.
To make sure
I didn't know like later on, like every time they add on,
they keep adding. Yes. So that's kind of where the direction that we're going to go.
Yes.
Like I said, by July, we'll have something solid in place. As it stands right now on the MLS, you can get on there and you can see what the percentage of commission is for an awful lot of transactions that are out there. But there are transactions that are popping up where there is 0 or 0.5%, something very minimal that's listed as the commission for the buyer's agent. So as time goes on, as we get closer to that July 15th deadline, I expect that we're going to see more and more a final version of exactly how that's going to happen.
But as for the buyer, then all you have to know that you're gonna be expecting to sign that one-page form is called the exclusive employment agreement form.
Yes.
Broker buyer, but of course don't be panicking because then maybe there's some negotiation and things going on. If you like the house and something, then the agent, the broker from your broker will contact to the other broker, right?
Right.
And they maybe they get something, and we don't have to worry that we have to pay more fee to to the sale of the sale price.
Exactly right. And
5%.
but you may end up in a situation where, okay, you've signed a buyer broker agreement with your broker.
Yes.
And it's for 3%. And then I'm the listing broker.
Yeah.
And I've got a agreement with mine for 3%. And my guy says, I'm not paying for the buyer's broker. So you come in and I go, there's no way. No way.
Yeah.
So,
unless you pay the money to your agent, right?
That's right.
Your agent.
So that may cause some of the buyers to go look at other properties.
Right. Yeah. Because they the sale price beside that, whatever. Well, how about that they offer, the way when they make offer, they have more room seeing the seller not paying as much as before.
It could be.
Right?
It could be. Yeah.
So there's some criteria that they need to look on. Whatever the benefit for them, actually seller or the buyer, is just like the different, like the buyer the seller now not allowed to pay, like don't have to pay the agent on the buyer side.
And actually the seller never had to pay.
Right.
And I think that's probably part of the misunderstanding that is carried on. The seller never has to pay.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. So all these time, then they're in the people mind, like from the time I know real estate, is that the seller will responsible for the commission. We don't have to worry about anything, even go out and buy anything. But now that's a point that bring out that it's never have to pay as before.
That's correct. And so it may become, commissions may become something that's part of the negotiation process of buying.
That's true. Yeah, before even get down to the purchase of the property.
Correct.
For those. So we just have to pay attention, and Scott really good, bring all the good point out there so we all know, or we will confuse and we're thinking like, oh, maybe this agent make it up, or they might think that way, and then, oh, I never heard about it, but this is the public record, this is going to go into effect. And it's from the National of the Realtor,
National Association of Real Estate.
Association of the Realtor. So then it's really the information we all have to understand. And when people mention something like that, then we're not surprised and confused about it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's like when I picked up this article, there were things in here that he's talking about, that the commission structures are going to reduce the amount of costs for selling a home. As we've kind of discussed here already.
Yes.
It may or it may not.
Yeah.
If you may be in a position as a seller,
right,
where if you're not going to pay or if you're not going to help the buyers out, the buyer may not be in a position where he can afford to buy your home.
Yeah. So that's something like really internally that the seller put some thought in it. Like they want to really sell the structure, or they want to go buy based on what the law accordingly, So it's really whatever people think. But I think if a good negotiator and if the buyer really willing and wanting to buy, but because of lacking of the money and things like that, they might gonna do negotiation with the seller.
Right.
Yeah, seller broker. And so everything in this world, negotiate.
You want, what it does is it actually it puts more emphasis on agents who have got experience,
right,
who understand how to negotiate, how to present things.
That's important.
And unfortunately, in many cases, if you're a first-time home buyer, you may not get that experienced agent. You may get an inexperienced agent, but they'll learn quickly and certainly represent you to the best of their ability, and make sure that you don't go through some of the pitfalls of things like missing out on inspections or
due
diligence.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Things like that. Because let's say if they change their mind like after the due diligence time, then they get hooked. They got to be responsible for some kind of liquidation, money, that. Yeah.
What I would highly recommend anybody that's considering buying is reviewing that buyer broker agreement. And getting a copy of the Arizona Buyer's Advisory. The Arizona, I've shown it several times, and I continue to make the offer that if somebody needs a copy of one, I'd be happy to send them either a digital or a hard copy. But that buyer's broker, the buyer's advisory, it comes from both the Arizona Department of Real Estate as well as the Arizona Association of Realtors, and it gives a laundry list of different types of due diligence that you can do, all the way from termites, title reports, water resources, access, all types of things, so that you can, not necessarily that you're going to use all of those resources on every single transaction, but it certainly gives you an idea of what's available, because there's a lot of public information out there and a lot of things where, you and your agent can walk through and make sure that you're doing things the correct way to protect yourself.
Yeah, because like there's certain situation where if we understand, then that's your power. You got to understand what is right. Sometimes when the agent forget about certain things, but if you understand something, you can remind them, right? For like, oh, I thought like this is that and that. So it's really nobody cares. Your money is not for your own money, like you said.
That's right. Yeah. Nobody cares about your money as much as you do. So, whatever resources you need to do to educate yourself and protect yourself, you should get.
Look for the right real estate agent. And if they sign, because I know that form, like sometimes I know people look at the house with someone, but ended up another person make offer. So that's, in this case, this won't happen. Yeah. So whatever, like the house what if is this applied to all the house that they seen, right? Or just one house? What it basically says is you as a buyer, it's going to tie you to one agent. So you make sure before you go out with that agent, that you like their style. That's right. The agent is knowledgeable.
Yeah, that agent's you're basically forming a team.
Right.
And you want that agent as your teammate.
There you go. Yep. That's very good. Wow, it's so stressful about that thing. So this weekend, you have any plan for this weekend?
No, I'm in town. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to stay here
and
enjoy the sunshine.
So, you seen like we advertising. There's a movie called The Fragile Flower.
Right.
It's a very good movie. It's about that young singer that bad things happen to her life and all that. So this is a good movie, and I suggest I know it's Vietnamese, but they have subtitle. In Faction More, that they start having the movie in a different hour from on the 29th. So if you got some time, you go there, like do shopping, eating or something, you can come to the Hawking Theater and enjoy and look and see how the way of the tradition, the culture, it's beautiful. So
I've seen the trailer for it, and it looks like it's a really interesting movie. And listening to you, I know you've talked to some of the folks that are involved in it. So
yes. So I would also remind everyone to come out and just support this movie, The Fragile Flower, right on theater in Arizona. It's going to be at the Hawking Theater. I think Gilbert as well, and starting the 29th of March, and hope everybody will support this movie. It's a great one. And then so we I know that we have different things to discuss there, but we also out of time. So we're gonna see our client, our viewer next weeks for the more event. Like I know there's a lot of a good topic that we're going to cover and maybe helpful and knowledgeable to our viewer. So then thank you so much for coming and share that information.
Well, really I thought it was pretty timely because it just occurred here in the last few weeks.
It's a big topic. Yeah, it's
really, a huge topic for real estate.
Make everybody have to think, put some thought in it and see the benefit, the loss, and what is really bring you out, and it's great.
Well, they're right about some things. The industry's going to change. I'm really curious. I think as far as the buyer-broker agreement, that's going to solve a lot of things. But I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with open houses.
Yes. We want to see that you can share with us.
We may not have open houses.
We just can share. Wow, if there's no open house, then there won't be what the transaction. We need to have open house, right? We would see. Anyway.
We'll see how that all plays out.
Okay. All right. We're going to update new information to our audience in the next episode. So thank you for watching VATV Real Estate Show, and see you next time. Scott Buller and Linh V. Bye-bye.
Bye.
A Fragile Flower promises a captivating experience for movie lovers, offering a poignant reflection on fame, love, and the human spirits set against the backdrop of Vietnamese culture and music.
Một nỗi buồn bí ẩn nào đó trong giọng hát của cô gái này lạ lắm. Giọng cô ta không thể nhầm lẫn với bất cứ giọng một ai khác. Ngoài phố mùa đông, đôi môi em là đốm lửa hồng.
Ủa, cô gái này là ai vậy anh?
Cô ấy tên là Thảo.
Cho ta nương nhờ lúc thở than.
Để làm được phim ca nhạc, em phải đánh đổi điều gì đấy?
Cần đêm trăng để chút vơi.
Nếu Thảo có tâm sự cần nói, tôi sẵn sàng nghe đi.
Thảo cứ coi tôi như là người tình của Thảo.
Em yêu chị, em mong được sống bên chị.
Tôi không tiếc tiền bảo trợ tất cả những chương trình lớn nhỏ cho cô ấy. Rốt cuộc tôi nhận lại được cái gì?
Tất cả những gì các tôi gây ra chưa đủ hay sao? Đừng bao giờ tới đây nữa.
Tôi nhắc ông lần cuối, ông đừng biến thành Thảo, nàng thơ của tôi, trở thành xấu xí và tầm thường như vậy.
Anh có thể yên tâm, vì nàng thơ của anh đã tìm được người đàn ông có thể lo cho cô ấy tất cả mọi thứ.
Mọi quyết định của em toàn đúng, cái đó mới là vấn đề đó.
Đừng có to tiếng với em. Chúng ta đều là những kẻ đáng thương trong tình yêu. Em sẽ không cho ai cướp đi tất cả những gì thuộc về em. Đừng bao giờ để con tim mình bị tổn thương.
Nói em vào anh chiếc hôn nồng. Nói em vào anh chiếc hôn nồng.
Xin cảm ơn sự theo dõi của tất cả quý vị trong những giây phút vừa qua. Chương trình VATV xin kính chào, tạm biệt và xin hẹn gặp lại quý vị vào lần phát hình kỳ tới. Mọi chi tiết về thông tin thương mại và bảo trợ, xin mời quý vị hãy liên lạc về địa chỉ email vaatelevision@gmail.com và số điện thoại là 480 289 9816 480 289 9816, website vaatv.com và vaaznews.com.